This is SoundNotion, the weekly podcast for new music and music news. I'm Dave McDonald.
I'm Nate Blyton.
I'm Sam Merciers.
And I'm Jeff Dybel.
Today we're without Patrick Gula, which is sad because this is our 50th episode of SoundNotion, which is crazy. Yeah. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you go back into the feed or onto the site soundnotion.tv and check out our Best of 2011 show. I was putting that together a couple weeks ago, and I watched SoundNotion 1. It was so bad.
Ooh,
so bad. So I don't recommend checking out SoundNotion 1, but I do recommend checking out the Best of 2011. So anyway, thank you for joining us, Jeff. Jeff joined us last minute because Patrick called in sick. It's nice to have you back on the show, Jeff.
He's got a little Irish flu this morning, I think.
Happy birthday to Patrick. But thanks, Jeff, for coming on.
Hey, no problem.
Yes, you should all go to Facebook or Twitter or wherever you do your whatevers and wish Patrick a happy birthday.
There you go.
And then find Jeff, because he's great, too.
And then find Jeff, who is awesome. Jeff is on all the things as well.
Thank you, sir.
So you can check him out on the Twitter and the other things that you do. So we've been off for a couple weeks, so we've got some news from that whole thing. While we were gone, there's this great story posted on the NPR blog, music blogs, about Aretha Franklin.
The number one story in the category of stories that make you go,
So Aretha Franklin is looking for the next great star of opera. Take a minute and let that sink in. Aretha Franklin, R-E-S-P-E-C-T, Aretha Franklin.
I was totally going to use that in a joke later. Thanks.
Oh, you can still use it.
Yeah,
I'll pretend it didn't happen.
We'll just talk about a bunch of other stuff.
Well, yeah, we'll just forget about it. Is looking for the next great opera star, which is kind of awesome. She sang Nessun Dorma, filling in for Pavarotti at
98 Grammys.
98 Grammys. At the Grammys, I knew. So she's into opera, and she's
not that into opera.
She's not into opera.
Read the second paragraph. The last sentence. Why
is she not that into opera, Jeff?
She talks about Jesse Norman and Leontine Price, and then the last sentence in that second paragraph is actually Price retired from opera in 1985.
She's just a little behind the times.
A little bit.
She's busy being a famous and incredible vocalist who has a world of experience and doing all different kinds of things. And so I'll be really interested to see what happens with this. What kind of advice she gives them.
The article talks about it like it's a TV show. It's not a TV show. She's just, looking for somebody to use her record company and her clout in the music industry to, promote somebody.
Actually, the way it's being set up, it's kind of the antithesis of the way those kinds of TV shows work.
Yes, it's very, very old school.
Yeah.
Like,
you have to send stuff in the mail.
Yeah. Like, send a CD or cassette tape. She actually says... to this address, and like they had the story on NPR radio, and they had Aretha Franklin talking like it was her official thing, and she's just reading the address, out loud that you need to mail your copy to.
Yeah.
So there's not even a website you can submit it on.
Well, I think this is like really just a personal thing for her. It's not like a big record label project. It's just she thinks that it's important that we have stars of opera for the next several decades, and she wants to help try to find those people.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Whether or not we actually...
Jeff, you have a funny look on your face.
That's great.
You can tell she's a faculty member now. That hold that blank expression and say, "That's great."
Everything is fine.
Yep.
Jeff is joining us from lovely Gainesville, Florida,
mm-hmm.
where he is on the faculty of the University of Florida, teaching saxophone. to all the kids.
Yeah, we kind of skipped that part. What kind of stuff's going on down there with you?
Oh, a lot of stuff.
We're out of practice.
Yeah. We're about to get started. We start again tomorrow, so I'm kind of in denial here that the semester is upon us. But I'm looking forward to getting back into it. And we had a really nice fall semester. One of my students won the concerto competition, so I was pretty happy about that.
Tell me it wasn't the Glazunov, please.
Nope, it wasn't actually. It was the concerto by Lars Erik Larsson. So
cool.
Good piece. And there are a lot of stuff just musically going on with.
Tell about the Careless Whispergrams.
Yes, we want to know about. We've been hearing on Twitter this buzz about Careless Whispergrams coming from Florida.
Well, yeah, if you're in the northern / central Florida area, we will be hopefully getting together a Careless Whispergram extravaganza where you can serenade your loved or hated one with a Careless Whispergram for the Valentine's Day season. So be on the lookout for that.
Yeah,
we should contextualize this for anyone who doesn't know what the reference is. So if you don't know, just go to YouTube and type Careless Whisper. That would probably do it. But if you type Careless Whisper saxophone, that will definitely do it. There's sort of this vigilante saxophone player that goes to different places. And speaking of Alexander Gardner's article, just starts playing the sax part to Careless Whisper in like malls and diners and bus stops and until he's drug out by security or the police.
It's quite entertaining.
Yeah, he's a phenomenon.
Do you have any idea what you...
I was gonna play it.
See, did it have a commercial at the beginning?
It did. That's how you know it's big time.
That's how you know it's big. You can't listen to it.
Everybody's seen it.
That's right.
There it is. All right.
Okay, so you get the idea. He does this in many, many places throughout this video. I don't think any of Jeff's students are going to be doing it in any places that would be inappropriate to be playing the saxophone, as this gentleman does in like a biology lecture at one point, I think, in this video. But that's a fantastic idea. It actually segues into go a little out of order, maybe.
I think we should.
This fantastic article by Alex Gardner at New Music Box, Accidental Audiences, talking about these kind of this trend of musical happenings, where performers and ensembles are putting together these performances in public spaces. It seems like this thing happens mostly in New York and big cities on the East Coast, but where there's a lot of pedestrians, right? There's not a lot of pedestrians in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So we want to pick this up?
Well, it seems to me just like I will take issue with something she said, but I like the whole idea of availing yourself to whatever you encounter. Mm-hmm. Like talking about the instance where she ran into some actors practicing sword fighting, but she could also hear a jazz trio practicing at the same time. Right. Just avail yourself to the beautiful noises and the beautiful things that you happen upon in life. However, when she says encountering a performance in an unexpected way automatically embeds it in one's consciousness, I don't necessarily know that's true, because I bet a lot of people who get off the bus or whatever, and then there's some saxophone player, like the first thing they do is try as hard as they can to ignore him, or try as hard as they can to block that noise out, because they don't care. They're just moving on with their life, Yeah. But some people do like it.
Yeah, and I think those people that, like, it seems like she's on the side of taking that moment of, like, you see this crazy thing on the wall in the subway, go check it out.
Yeah.
And so the prevalence of music and people kind of latching on to that model seems like a cool thing, and it's not like I don't know. It's a new model of inserting this stuff in a place where it hasn't been there in the same way.
I agree, Nate.
Yeah.
And I think it's also really important that the pretenses of the concert hall and all of the things that come into your head when you go to see a performance are automatically sidestepped when you are in that kind of a situation. So you're more open, I think, is the real power of that kind of situation.
Yeah, and it's been working for street performers and buskers for centuries and stuff. So
Right.
So she specifically cites this really cool installation that happened, I think, in sometime in December in New York. I guess it was December 21st, and it was every stop on the F train through New York had somebody playing cello. Somebody, I think it was from the Knights Chamber Orchestra, playing the first movement, the prelude to the Bach cello suite in G.
Yeah.
And so from like stop to stop to stop, you would hear a live performance of the same piece.
And what I love about that is, like, as people are getting on the subway, they all hear that piece. And so it's a subway car full of people who just had that experience and, like, probably end up talking about it and stuff.
Yeah, well,
I don't know how many people talk to strangers on the subway.
Well,
in New York.
I said that people would ignore that music a lot of the time. She goes on and quotes a Henry Threadgill. Basically, he puts forth the idea that, having people be turned off by it is not a bad thing. It's not the end of, because you've still touched them in some way, and if their interpretation is ugh, you've still made a connection through the art to that person.
Right.
But there's also a link to a video that is in Washington, D.C., and they show it in fast motion. At the beginning, you can hear him playing, but it's Joshua Bell standing in the metro station in Washington.
This is a very famous article. This one article won a Pulitzer.
Did it?
Maybe like 10 years ago. The Washington Post did an experiment with Joshua Bell playing in a subway station, and they wanted to see if Joshua Bell playing, this 500-year-old violin playing really amazing music could get anybody to care more about buskers, see if he would make any more money busking than a normal person, and it turned out he didn't.
Right.
And, I mean, it's a flawed experiment, but
watch the video. It shows it in fast motion, and you can see that 90% of the people are walking by without sparing a glance.
Well, this is the problem. He's in a subway station. The point of the subway station is not to have people stand around and enjoy something that's going on, but to get them from one place to another.
Yeah, like maybe next to
everybody that's there is in a hurry to get somewhere else.
And a lot of people designed that place to try to facilitate that, them not sticking around as much.
Exactly. So, I mean, that's what I think is actually particularly cool about Throughline. This is that installation by James Holt in the subway in New York with the same piece going on at several different stops. Because when you're going along this train line, you're hearing the same thing at every stop. And so in some ways that live performance is following you rather than you having to stop and listen to it, which I think is the cool part.
I think also important to recognize is that these kinds of events they're I think a reclaiming of physical and artistic space, and it's kind of a response to the major institutions of art, leaving so many normal, artists and musicians behind, and saying, like, we don't need you guys. We can do whatever we want, and it doesn't take, $100,000 commission or whatever to make art happen.
Can you rephrase that in a way that doesn't make you sound like a bohemian English major?
I don't think you could express that sentiment without sounding like a bohemian English major.
No, it's important, though, especially in this country that, we don't have the kind of financial support that the state provides in, like Europe or, some other places. What's that?
Even in Canada.
Yeah. And so, it's and it's part of you have to say, I think it's part of a larger DIY movement among musicians of creating their own groups and just doing it on their own instead of waiting for institutions to kind of, take a look at them and maybe.
I like that better. That DIY is good. I usually talk about entrepreneurism, but DIY is better.
Yeah.
And that the DIY impulse is something we've talked about on the show, and I've made the point that that impetus has been around for a long time. Like take Philip Glass and Steve Reich. They had this kind of music that they were writing, and so they just got their own bands together to do it. The big difference these days is that aggregating human endeavor is so much easier, and communicating with people is so much easier, and accomplishing any of that stuff is easier these days because you have so many contacts. So it's so easily to stay in contact with so many people, so many musicians, etc.
Right. That actually kind of segues into another story we're going to talk about this week. Is the Oregon Symphony is leaving the American League of American Orchestras. Right. So they're bowing out. They're doing so, they say, to save money, which I'm sure they are going to save money. This story cites
$17,000
like $17,000 that they would save in dues every year to the league, and so they're not going to play in the postseason this year, but I feel like that's maybe one of the things that they can use to justify it. Like, there's so much information that they can get on their own using the internet.
Well, when they list the things that you get from membership, these are the kinds of things, just like what we were talking about, things that, 25 years ago, you would need help, and being a member of a big organization like that would give you the information you need.
Yeah.
Aggregating that information.
Kinds of surveys and things.
Is not hard,
Right.
And, but look at it this way. I bet you could pay some, undergraduate $11,000 a year to sit at a computer and figure out all that stuff and find all these things, or
and give them college credit.
Probably less than $11,000. In other words, you could save a lot of money and still get the job done.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
Friend of the show, Drew McManus, actually commented on this article, and he said that he doesn't think it's a bad thing. And it's just about weighing what you get versus what you pay. And he thinks that it's, if you can save a lot of money and you don't feel like you're getting your money's worth out of it, why not pull out?
Yeah. And I mean, clearly there are enough orchestras that aren't doing so great that the league isn't doing that much for these other orchestras. Maybe they need to invest that $17,000 doing something that might help them.
That's a third oboe or a second violin or whatever. Yeah. $17,000
for how many concerts?
Well, I was saying a third oboe would accommodate anytime you needed a third oboe. That should
right.
That's more of a saxophonist right there.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Saxophonist. Yeah.
Awesome. So, anyway, maybe they can just use it to lower their ticket prices across the board.
So Jeff thinks to play on Pictures at an Exhibition is worth $17,000 for a saxophone player.
Yes. For one performance.
One performance.
Along these same lines, classical music organizations struggling with the money thing. That's a new story for us on SoundNotion.
Right.
Opera Boston, remember them? They premiered
Madame Whitesnake?
Madame Whitesnake, Xiaolong's Pulitzer Prize winning opera in April. Remember that? That was great. I love that.
Yeah.
That
They
was
must
so
be
fun.
doing
That was a big
They
deal.
must be doing
Yeah,
great, right? No. Not so much. They announced a few weeks ago that they're shutting down, and it was a big surprise to everybody. Like, nobody knew anything was even going weird. So, I mean, it's kind of disappointing that a company that's doing such great work can't support themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's a solution to that. I mean, what more could you ask of a company than to perform the work that just won a Pulitzer Prize?
Right.
I mean,
Yep. Well, the last line of the article, we find ourselves in a financially untenable situation, and the responsible thing to do is work with our creditors and cease operations.
you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, so we don't know how deep the hole is, but if they're that deep,
But they still need to let their their public know what's going on. I think they should afford them at least that, because when people find out that bad things are happening, a lot of people will come out of the woodwork to help and everything.
Well, yeah, it seems like they might have been able to cull some help from the community if they'd put their struggles out there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you wonder at some level if it was a surprise to the administrators of the opera company that they weren't doing so well.
Just went into the bank one day,
which is a little disappointing.
Yeah,
we need to be able to find better people than this to run these arts organizations.
Yeah, they were swiping
Which is something that Drew McManus talks about on his blog all the time. Is it's hard to find people that know what they're talking about in the arts and also are good at
connecting
running
with
running that organization and not running it into the ground.
Yeah,
it's a tough job.
Yeah, so we're sorry to see Opera Boston go. We hope they can pick it back up and get things together, because they were doing great work.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. But there is still an opera company in Boston.
There is. New York Philharmonic is renewing their Contact Festival this year, but when they say new music, they don't really necessarily mean new.
Yeah.
Lightly worn.
Like who?
Lightly worn.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, not really even that lightly.
Okay.
What are we talking about, Sam?
Well, the series is supposed to be dedicated to new music, and I guess since we don't have an attachment that says what they mean by new, we shouldn't be too hard on them. But new to me means new, and in the series as scheduled now, only half of the 6 Contact pieces were composed in the past decade. There's a Pierre Boulez piece from 1993, Frankenstein, which was from the 1970s.
H.K. Gruber.
Yeah, that guy's a character.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Are they getting him to do the? Are they getting Gruber to do the
I'd imagine he conducts a lot of his own music a lot of the time.
Yeah, so anyway, basically the article is Zachary Wolfe at the New York Times is just putting forth the idea that if they're going to have a new music series and call it a new music series, it should have some new music in it,
Right.
It's very, very kind of lukewarm as far as that goes, and he contrasts it to the Los Angeles Philharmonic as an example of people who get out there and really work on premiering some really new music.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But when people can do things that are less dangerous and sort of rest on their reputation, that's probably what they're going to do. And people aren't going to stop going to see the New York Phil. They're music that they actually have heard of and they're not afraid of. It probably make more people show up.
I don't know. I feel like that's kind of the point of the series, though, is to make people not afraid of scary new things, right?
Yeah.
So
right.
maybe they should present them with some scary new things and explain why they're not really that scary.
That's what I think.
Seems to me like, especially with a name like Contact! Pow.
Pow.
Not to be confused with Frankenstein! H.K. Gruber. Pow.
A little left hook in there too.
Well, to be fair, I'm not defending them, of course, in any way, but they probably aren't feeling a whole lot of pressure to program the newest of the new, because there are so many fantastic ensembles in New York that are not the New York Philharmonic that are presenting really, really good concerts all the time, of the highest quality. And yeah.
But I don't know how much crossover in those audiences there are. Like, I think maybe Contact is to... The New York Philharmonic's audience is much larger and probably a different group of people. Well, yeah. But maybe the point of something like this is to demonstrate how interesting this is to a different group of people.
Right.
I mean, they're doing good stuff this year. They're doing grouping.
Yeah.
This summer.
It's kind of funny. I'd never heard this quote, but at the end of the article, this is just an example of how long this conflict and people have been wringing their hands over what we've been talking about. Edgar Varese, almost a century ago, it doesn't give an exact time, quoted says American orchestras are, quote, mausoleums, mortuaries of musical reminiscences. And that was almost a century ago. And, you know.
People have been writing that for a long time. I think the thing that makes this unusual is that they're claiming that it's new, and it's way not.
Right.
Like,
I mean, there's more new music available now than there ever has been, too.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
So, way to aim for the middle, New York Philharmonic. Good job.
Oh, that's not nice. Sam.
Making arrangements. I am making some arrangements. Sorry, I was at a loss for a transition, so I'll name the article.
That was smooth. We'll put that one in next year's best of show.
Yeah. So,
Rob Deemer thinks you should make some more arrangements.
Yeah, this is actually published on my birthday, December 23rd.
Hey, happy birthday.
Hey!
Happy birthday.
So now we can't make fun of Sam for being 40 anymore.
That's right. We were on hiatus, so this is December, but it talks about the the act of and the possible aesthetic, artistic benefits and satisfaction of doing arrangements. I personally have been hired to do a couple of arrangements, and I thought it was one of the funnest things I ever did, you know?
Yeah.
To me, orchestrating is a lot of fun, and coming up with cool transitions is a lot of fun. Yep. Coming up with all the actual material is the hard part, you know? Right. So it's like getting to compose, but only the fun part.
Exactly. You get to exercise all those muscles that you've worked on for so long and do it in a really fun, easy way.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about now what melody am I going to use to support this section because it's there.
Use whatever's next.
Yeah, it's awesome, and they go quick, and it's easy money as far as I'm concerned.
Well, he's not saying they're just fun. He's saying they're useful tools.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can learn a lot and you can experiment a lot. If you don't have to spend all the energy, mental energy coming up with the materials, you can spend more mental energy on placing everything very, very carefully throughout the ensemble, and doing creative things in different ways. And I think it's one of those things where giving yourself structure, some outside imposed structure, can actually make a product that's in some ways more creative.
Oh yeah,
because you're building it around this other thing, and you're being creative despite the fact that you can't do anything.
Yeah. And as an example, one of the examples they use in the article is an arrangement of Alarm Will Sound did of an Aphex Twin tune. Sure. And to me, that would be a great learning exercise because, if you listen to the original and you try to figure out how to take a chamber ensemble and give it that character, that would be pretty tough. And it's a cool arrangement of the piece. We should actually give that a little bit of a listen, Dave.
The Aphex Twin. So you want to hear the original first?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. So here's a little bit of Aphex Twin 4. That's a little bit of the original by Aphex Twin. And I think this arrangement for Alarm Will Sound is done by Peyton McDonald. Is that true?
I
can't confirm that.
We'll go with that for now. We'll assume I'm right.
It's a good assumption, usually. So this is a live recording. It's also available on their
yeah,
CD
they also have
an Acoustica.
Acoustica.
Bassoons.
So anyway, it's
a great performance, and you should check it out if you haven't seen the whole thing.
And they've done, as we said, they've done a whole album of that stuff, and it's all quite tasty. So you should check it out.
I'm really glad they did that too, because that drum beat was one of my favorite ones. As I was trying to play, like,
yeah.
You know, the interesting thing to me, like a lot of that seems to map acoustically to an ensemble when you listen to the original. Like, obviously, you hear some strings, something that sounds just like strings in the background, and you hear a part that, I would have the clarinet play that, and the clarinet was actually playing it.
Yeah.
But something I think you'd run into in this kind of music a lot is that drum and bass feel that Aphex Twin has, you know, counting on an ensemble to be able to consistently replicate some of those really syncopated rhythms.
Yeah.
You know, making decisions about whether or not to dumb it down and how to dumb it down and how to do that while retaining the character that it has, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
interesting problem.
That goes into, you know, our pick of the week, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is not your average new music ensemble. Alarm Will Sound is more rhythmically capable than your average bear.
Right.
They're totally sweet, is what Dave's trying to say.
That's kind of what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So our pick of the week is actually from Bang on a Can All Stars. Bang on a Can is celebrating its 25th anniversary. So happy birthday to Bang on a Can. And if you go to bangonacan25.org, they are giving away from now until January 25th their 2-disc album in MP3 format, which is pretty cool. You give them your name and your email address. I haven't gotten any spam from them yet, so hopefully that continues. And they send you a link where you can just download the whole shebang as a big zip file, and it's pretty great. So our pick of the week is from that. And we were talking about music that was originally intended for not people to play.
Yeah.
With extremely rhythmically intricate inner workings. So this is Conlon Nancarrow's player piano studies. So one of the reasons he did these for player piano instead of piano is that he assumed that these rhythms were just too ridiculous that nobody would ever be able to play these rhythms that he had in his mind.
I'm sure it was also an interesting exploration of just the technical stuff.
Oh yeah,
of
doing the
cutting out the pieces of paper or the holes in the piano roll and everything. And
sure.
And let's be clear, I think there are some Nancarrow pieces that are impossible to play.
Sure. These are not all of the Nancarrow player piano.
Right.
This is a set of 4 that are included on this album. And Alarm Will Sound that we just listened to has included a few player piano etudes of Nancarrow's on their album. Arrhythmia, thank you. So you should check that out too. Good stuff.
Yeah.
So these recordings, which one are we going to play, Nate?
I wanted to do Study 11.
Study 11. Okay, so this is Player Piano Study 11 by Conlon Nancarrow, transcribed for the Bang on a Can All-Stars by Evan Zipperin. There's some really great music on this double album, and again, it is totally free for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, for a limited time.
$3.99.
$3.99, as Sam likes to say.
$1 off.
So, go there, bangonacan25.org. Here is the number 11. Good stuff. Good stuff. So that was the Bang on a Can All-Stars on their 25th anniversary album. Big, Beautiful, Dark, and Scary, performing transcription by Evan Zipperin of Conlon Nancarrow's Player Piano Study Number 11.
You know, it always gets me because people will talk about Nancarrow and, you know, it's weird, it's crazy, it's so hard, but so often when you listen to his pieces, you know, they're bluesy and funky and there's all kinds of weird stuff going on rhythmically and metrically, but there's always something you can latch onto.
There's that really solid, like kind of almost like a boogie groove.
Boogie woogie, everything. Yeah.
Well, just the sort of you know, smashed together metric senses that you have in a lot of that, like. When I hear that, I'm like, oh man, that's why I like making electronic music sometimes, because you can make that kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And to have those people consistently playing that down that way is pretty impressive.
Yeah. I mean, again, Bang on a Can All-Stars are a lot like Alarm Will Sound. They can do things that average new music ensembles can't.
Right.
Mm-hmm. They can do things that even very good new music ensembles can't do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever tried to play anything like this, Jeff? You're our resident performer.
Ooh, I think probably the most rhythmically crazy thing. I mean, nothing quite like that. I guess some of the quartet stuff has been a little bit like that, but I think of difficult rhythmic things. I think of what was the piece that we played for the concert in Lansing? The
Workers' Union.
Yeah, the Workers' Union in Andreessen. That's kind of tricky, but it's not tricky in the same way. It's just that one's just about fortitude.
That one's more about holding time than it is about accurate rhythm
and not stepping in holes.
Well, it's you know, a valuable skill in and of itself, and I think that piece is a perfect example of how you have to hold the time solid as a rock for that piece to work.
Right. Yeah. Accurate rhythmic playing and being really consistent for a really long period of time.
Yeah, and it's so easy to drag when you got a bunch of people going all that kind of stuff. It's easy to start dragging.
Right. But yeah, nothing specifically like that. I mean, I can't help but think of, you know, Ligeti's piano etudes, obviously.
Yeah.
But that's obviously been influenced by Nancarrow.
Right. So there's no reason everyone shouldn't rush to their nearest internet and get this for free. Because they don't give stuff away for free at Bang in a Can all the time.
That's right. That's what I think is so cool about this. Like, this is one of the best groups around, and they're giving this great music away.
Yeah.
So absolutely do that. Thank you so much for joining us this week, Jeff. It's been really great having you. And I know it was kind of short notice, but it's been a lot of fun.
Oh, always fun.
Yeah. Now go make a lesson plan.
Is there, anything to look forward to?
Yeah, do you have anything you want to plug other than of course your
Careless Whispergrams?
That wasn't my idea to plug that, actually, but yeah, a lot of stuff coming up. H2 Quartet is about to release our next CD. It's in process right now. It's being processed, I should say. So It should be out. I think I would have to say by the end of this month it's going to be done.
We'll have to have you or one of the other guys on when that comes out, and that'll absolutely be a pick of the week.
Brilliant.
Yes. So that's coming out, and then
what's on it?
Probably the most important piece is Mark Melitz's quartet, which we sort of worked on with him, and he's really stoked about it, and so are we.
So that's string quartet transcription, right?
Yeah, and so that's a big piece, and then pieces by Thierry Esquèche. Victor Marquez actually has a major work on there, which is also the other big piece on the CD. We're really excited about that. It came out really well. Yeah, the next CD probably will be
friend of the show, Victor Marquez, by the way.
That's right.
Victor been on before?
Yeah. He filled in when I was.
Yeah, he did.
Once.
I remember.
Yeah, so that's coming out. We're excited about it, and we're also in the process of commissioning at least 3 new pieces that we're going to be premiering this spring and summer, both in the States and in Europe. So pieces by Drew Baker, who's a good friend of mine from school, and a couple other pieces. Piece by Daniel Wohl, who is, I believe, a Texas-based composer, and Carl Blench, who's also a Texas-based composer, I believe. So some exciting pieces coming out that we're really excited about, and going to Europe this summer, and just a lot of things happening for us. So
excellent.
Pretty cool. And Nate, I think, is going to be coming down to Florida here to present a recital with me at some point.
At some point.
I'll get that nailed down this week, Nate. Sorry.
Okay.
It's later. Stuff that's later, we worry about later.
We expect a SoundNotion segment to come out of that, Nate.
Yeah, sure.
Bring a camera.
Definitely. Yeah.
We'll do it.
Are you going to be doing your the New York counterpoint electronic version?
Yeah, we'll do that. And that's a project that I'm really proud of that we did. And then I don't know what else we'll do. We'll probably do some old stuff, some new stuff.
Yeah,
who knows?
Little impending green.
It'll evolve. It'll evolve.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, we'll definitely plug those when they come around.
Great. Thanks.
So thank you so much for joining us here on SoundNotion today. I don't know if anybody was watching live, but we're going to start doing this live with the live streaming and everything, so you can join us every Sunday. We record this around 11 a.m.-ish Eastern time.
If we have a guest that's not a friend,
we're usually pretty good about starting at 11. Jeff doesn't count.
Yeah.
That's good. Thanks.
Jeff is a saxophone player, so we knew he
Jeff's
wouldn't.
our buddy.
I wasn't even up until 10:55.
So we do this at 11 a.m. Eastern time. You can watch that at soundnotion.tv/live. You can also check out this episode and all of our past episodes at soundnotion.tv/SN. You'll also see the best of show there. You can subscribe to this show and all the other shows on SoundNotion TV in the iTunes store. If you have any comments about any of the stories, or you want to read more about the stories that we've talked about, you can read those also in the show notes, soundnotion.tv/SN. And send us a note there, or on Facebook or Twitter, or send us an email, soundnotiontv@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening or watching. Our introduction includes video by Tyler Lepp and audio by Patrick Gulo, who will be back with us next week. And hopefully we'll see you there. See you next time.